Welcome back to MMA Al Dente. I am the guy who picked Eduardo Garagori to defeat Darren Elkins. And I'm here to talk about the co-main event for UFC 303. Diego Lopes and Brian Ortega both stepping up on very short notice to give us what I consider to be one of the most exciting matchups I've seen in a long time on paper. All right, I could not be more pumped for a fight. I really hope the fact that they both took this on pretty short notice doesn't affect this fight, because it would suck if they find themselves in round three and they're gasping for air. But I'm assuming these guys are both in shape. They're going to make weight, all that horse shit. And once they get in the octagon, it's about as exciting a matchup on paper as there could be. My prediction for the fight, I'm going with Brian Ortega, and I've got him winning via comeback. That's right. I think he's going to get his ass kicked largely in round one. It's going to be a rough fight, no matter where the fight takes place. I just think Diego Lopes is exceptionally dangerous, one of the few guys that can match the danger of Ortega. And in addition to that danger, he's also much more dynamic, better athlete, and the better physical fighter. And in round one, I envision him giving Ortega trouble, probably on the feet with his 3 inches of height and 3 inches of reach. But if they should find themselves on the ground, no matter who's in what position, neither guy can relax. Because Diego showed in his UFC debut against Movsar Evloev and against Joe Anderson Brito on the Contender Series, even if you can bully him physically early, you're in trouble. You can't relax with Diego Lopes. So I just envision Diego taking it to Ortega and giving him a lot of problems early. But Brian Ortega, I envision him slowing the fight down like he did against Yair Rodriguez. And once he turns the fight around and allows his danger into the fight, if he can get on top of Diego, Ortega is one of the few guys that can match the danger of Diego Lopes and probably exceed it. Ortega's got 11 finishes in his 16 wins, 3 by knockout, 8 by submission. And of those 11 wins, I want to guess at least 7 of them take place in round three. That's where he's made his bones in the UFC. Even before he made it to his first title fight, he was taking out a lot of great fighters in round three, and every one of those fights was competitive, if not a fight that he was losing. Diego Brandao, Clay Guida, Thiago Tavares, and Otto Moicano. He had a lot of stiff tests and showed a lot of great traits consistently. And now he's had some losses as of late. That's where he suffered his 3 losses. I believe they're in his last 5 fights here. But they're to excellent fighters, and despite him having 2 TKO finishes, he's never truly been finished. The first TKO comes to Max Holloway. Max definitely beat him up and beat him down, but he didn't knock him out. It was just a doctor stoppage after, again, a pretty bad beatdown. Max was styling on him, showing him how to box and all that, all the viral shit. It was a really tough matchup, but still, Ortega showed a lot of heart in that fight. His other TKO loss was the injury to Yair Rodriguez, a shoulder injury, with which, if anything, it should be ruled a submission loss, but that's beside the point. But either way, submission or knockout, I don't consider it legit unless he injures his shoulder again. Then I'll say, hey, he has a new trait. And his one decision loss was to Alexander Volkanovski 3 years ago in an excellent title fight. Ortega was largely a step and a half behind in that fight, but man, did he give himself a shot in round three and in round four as well by locking up some of his best subs. Took him to T City, locked up a Darce, a guillotine, knocked a Volkanovski down with a beautiful counter right hand. Just gave all the danger in the middle of the fight when a lesser fighter would have fallen apart. But Volkanovski, especially prime Volkanovski, he was able to go through that. So he's got 3 losses, and they're in his last 5 fights, and that looks ugly when you look at his record. But I still consider him a very healthy fighter and an elite fighter as well. And of course, he took away that Yair Rodriguez loss with a clean victory in his last fight, where he had to withstand the danger of Yair, who's another dynamic, dangerous fighter. And he did slow him down and got him out of there with an arm triangle in what else? Round 3. Diego Lopes, he's got a record of 24-6. He's been TKO'd twice in round 2. I haven't seen one of the fights against this guy Rodrigo Praya, even though I search and search and search for it every time I look up, I research Diego Lopes. But the fight was 10 years ago, so there's that. His other knockout loss came in 2018, 6 years ago, and that was to this guy Amir Alzarkayev. That was a fight where Diego was his dangerous self and was able to threaten even when taken down, but he was slowed down, beaten up, and in the end, I think he was knocked out. I've said this before, but I don't know if he was knocked out, I don't know if he quit, and I don't know if he was crying. It might have been crying. Either way, it was an ugly loss, and it happened on the ground where his guard was stuffed and he was pounded out. I think he went unconscious, but tough to tell. And then his 4 decision losses, he lost to Movsar Evloev in his UFC debut. Incredible debut. Movsar is one of the best fighters, challenging for a title probably in the next year or so, unless he loses, of course. And Diego, on very short notice, I believe, gave Movsar hell. Hell from the beginning to the very end, sweeping him with a Kimura when he was dead tired. So it was an incredible performance. I did think he definitely lost the fight, but the stock of Evloev may have dropped there, and the stock of Diego Lopes skyrocketed with that debut. And then he lost on the Contender Series to Joe Anderson Brito. It was a technical decision because Joe Anderson poked him in the eye in round 3, and they took a point away, actually. So it made it interesting. But even with the point deduction, Joe Anderson largely bullied him, took him down, survived every submission in the book, but generally did the better job beating him up from on top. And so he won a clear decision. And I think if he didn't poke him in the eye, probably would have won a decision anyway. But Joe Anderson's a very good fighter, and Diego threatened him throughout that whole fight. He lost a decision to Nate Richardson, who's a journeyman. That was a Fury FC championship fight, 5 rounds. I thought Diego definitely won the fight. He got the better of him, the much better moments on the feet and on the ground, scored the much better points, but the guy was in his face, and the cookie crumbled his direction. He won a split decision that, in my opinion, was bullshit. But whatever. Tough loss. And then this other loss, he lost back in 2014 or 2013 to this guy, Thiago Silva. That one I have seen. It says it's a split decision, 15-minute fight. That's bullshit. I think it was an amateur fight, and it was 6 minutes. 2 minutes each round. That's what I think. And even then, it was pretty close. The one takeaway I have from that fight is that he was threatened with an arm triangle choke that looked pretty tight in round 2, where it looked like he was losing a little bit of steam, even though, again, he'd only fought like 3 minutes at that point. But he survived it, which was a good look, I guess, for the Ortega fight. And he ended up losing a decision by conceding top position, but 6-minute fight, that should have been an amateur fight. It probably is. I don't know why the fuck it's on his pro record, but whatever. But he has shown since making it to the UFC how dangerous he is. 3 90-second finishes pretty much over Gavin Tucker, Pat Sabatini, and Sadiq Youssef. 3 very good fighters, and they looked like they didn't belong in there with Diego. He just had too much danger. Gavin Tucker, he locked up that beautiful triangle. Gavin was trying to take him down. He jumped right into it. And actually, it was an armbar that he got him with, but whatever. Triangle armbar. And Pat Sabatini, I think his chin is weak now because Diego Lopes helped me think that by steamrolling him. But that was a beautiful finish. And against Sadiq Youssef, that's his best win. Sadiq is an excellent fighter who's still not done climbing, but man, he just got caught by those heavy strikes of Diego. Diego throws such heavy punches, hooks, and uppercuts. Everything he throws is to kill, and he does keep that power down the stretch. Even though he didn't have the most taxing fight against this guy, Kenneth Glenn, I think. He knocked him out in round 3 with a beautiful combination. Actually, I think a straight right finished him. But he's a dangerous guy, Diego. He's got 24 wins, 22 finishes, just 2 decisions. 10 by knockout, 12 by submission. and most of them take place in round one because he's so fucking dangerous. But he's gotten a few in round three. That Kenneth Glenn win. He also tapped Masio Fullen, former UFC fighter, got him with an armbar. Speaking of which, he got Marco Beltran with a knee bar, and he beat Hani Jason, former UFC fighter, by decision. So he's got a lot going on, but I think his danger might run into a wall here in Ortega. That's what I'm picking anyway. I think Diego Lopes will be kicking his ass early, won't be able to put him away, and then Ortega will battle his way back into the fight. And with a guy as dangerous as Brian Ortega beating you, it's not going to look like it did with Mosar Voyev or Nate Richardson or whatever. Brian Ortega is a much more dangerous fighter than those guys, and even much more dangerous than Joe Anderson Brito, who's a killer in his own right, but he doesn't have the whole well-rounded attack like Ortega does. So Ortega is the pick. I have bet on his money line at plus 120, but not a lot. I have a lot of doubt here. I think he's really up against it, especially early with Diego. And I'll wait for the prop, see if anything jumps out. I'd be looking to play Diego by round one, and I favor knockout over submission, to be honest, against Ortega, and see if anything jumps out for Ortega winning down the stretch. Because I think if Ortega wins, it is a round three finish, maybe a round two finish, but where he has to slow down and tame Diego to get the W. So we'll see what happens, but either way, credit to both guys for stepping up. This is going to be an incredible fight no matter what happens, unless it's another fucking shoulder injury. And yeah, like, share, subscribe, all that horse shit. Check out my other videos. I'm not good at ending these things.